There has never been a better time to buy a launch monitor in the mid-tier range. There are more options, there are better options, and there are cheaper options than there has ever been before. On today's video, we're gonna explore this mid-tier range, and I'm talking about launch monitors between about $2,000 to $3,000 in that range. I think that's the sweet spot because it's much more accurate than your cheaper Doppler devices. Most of these are going to be optical devices, which are going to be more accurate indoors, with the exception of one here today. And they're not going to be as expensive as the top of the line models for the pros and for the elite out there that might cost you $20,000. The accuracy and the value is right there in the middle. I think it's the Goldilocks range. This year, we saw some big changes happening, a huge stir up in the market. From new products entering the market to compete with what's already out there, things like the Unicor iMini Lite, to existing products that completely changed their pricing strategy to compete with all the options that are out there. And I'm thinking about things like the Bushnell Launch Pro. And there were also big improvements in terms of software functionality with things like the Mio Plus that rolled out a whole new suite of features. So today I'm going to break down our best options that exist here in 2024. And before I do that, no matter which unit you decide to buy, I highly recommend you do your shopping over at my friends playbetter.com. They have sponsored this show for 4 years running, and the reason they have is because they are so good to the Let's Play Through community, not only giving us the best prices on the internet, not only providing free shipping across the continental United States, but really having the best customer service in the industry. In fact, they've got a money-back guarantee. If you don't love the launch monitor you end up choosing, you can always return or exchange it with playbetter.com. They also supply all the other things that you're going to need for your dream golf simulator setup, things like mats, like enclosure cages. In fact, they have entire packages where you can pretty much build a sim out of the box. Love Play Better. I'm going to leave some links down below, including a survey that after you watch this video, you can take to really dial in the perfect choice for you. All right, so the first launch monitor that we're going to talk about here today is going to be the Bushnell Launch Pro. Now, this is a launch monitor that has sat since it was released here in my studio. I use it probably the most out of all the launch monitors for a number of reasons. First off, it's an optical-based device that is going to give you extreme accuracy, and when you add little dots to your clubs, you'll also get club data on top of that. Here's a list of all of the ball and club data that's available for the Bushnell Launch Pro. It's extensive, more than what most people will need even. So here in 2024, Bushnell Launch Pro has a couple of options, and these options are completely different than when they rolled this out a couple years ago. First off, you've got the ball data only option, and the price is very nice at $1,999. Now you get the ball data like carry distance, ball speed, total spin, that sort of thing. What you won't get is the club data like your club speed, the launch direction, launch angle, that sort of thing. If you do want that club data, you'll need to step up to their ball and club data model, which is $34.99. Now, this is kind of what the Bushnell Launch Pro was when it first launched. So what they're basically doing is they're giving you a more affordable option that competes again with some of the newcomers here on the market. And I think it's great to have options. It doesn't hurt us. Now, the one thing though that you've got to bear in mind with the Bushnell Launch Pro system is that you're going to have a pretty hefty subscription cost. So what you're doing is you're basically getting a discount on the hardware, and you're sort of amortizing that over time in order to pay back the cost of that hardware. So Bushnell used to have a number of different options. They had silver, they had gold, they had an unlocked version. They only offer one subscription now, and that's the gold subscription, which is $499 a year. And the reason you'll want to add that is because it gives you the ability to unlock simulation. FSX has its own play software that's really good. Great graphics, very modern, and it comes with a number of really nicely rendered golf courses. But what that gold subscription also does is it gives you the capability to unlock third-party software like GS Pro. GS Pro is my favorite, bar none, third-party golf simulator software out there. It's an open source software that literally the community builds courses for, and you've got the best of the best in the world within GS Pro. It used to be you could kind of bridge into it and kind of get around the subscription, but nowadays you really have to have have that $499 gold in order to use GS Pro. So once again, you're paying less upfront and you're kind of financing the cost of the hardware here with the Bushnell Launch Pro. Now, if you're deciding between the ball data or the ball and club data, and that's going to be something that a lot of people ask, one interesting thing to note is they'll actually give you a free 14-day trial of the ball and club software so that you can see if it's for you, and then you can decide, do you want to upgrade, pay $1,500 to do that, or do you want to stick with what you got? So in my mind, I think I'd buy the $19.99 version, try the upgrade, see if it's for me, see if I need the club data. If you find you don't need it, you've saved yourself a ton of money. So with all of these launch monitors we're going to talk about today, there's going to be drawbacks. So the big drawbacks for me with the Bushnell Launch Pro are going to be that subscription. It is a high subscription cost. You're also going to use multiple softwares to do things with your new launch monitor. So for instance, if you want to do what I do, club testing, or really finding out my stats, dialing in numbers, I use FSX 2020 for that. If I want simulation, I'll use FS Play for that. And there's even different apps for iPhone, iPad, that sort of thing. So the software suite is a little bit complex. I wish they could kind of combine that into one thing. It would be a lot nicer, but it is what it is. The last drawback for me is that FSX 2020 software itself. I think that could use an update. I think it was maybe even created before 2020, at least it looks like it has been. And yeah, the graphics definitely need a bit of a refresh. Those are my drawbacks there with the BLP, but again, very solid device, great for indoor as well as outdoor use, although it's a little heavier to carry around, but it can be done. Now, the next launch monitor we're going to talk about here is actually its big brother, really its twin brother, and that is going to be the Foresight GC3. This is essentially the exact same hardware. The only difference is you don't have that subscription cost. You get everything that the Bushnell Launch Pro offers for a one-time price. Right now is $5,999 at MSRP. Now, as I'm making this video in real time, there are some serious deals happening on the Bushnell Launch Pro. If you're watching this video later, I can't guarantee that they're there, but right now you can save $500 on the ball and club data and $250 off the ball only models. So that might make your choice a little bit easier if you're trying to decide here between the Bushnell and the GC3. You can just kind of work out the math to see if that subscription cost makes sense. And just like the Bushnell Launch Pro, you're also going to get access to a 25 course pack so you can play simulator golf, again, in that FS Play software. Really nice system. So the big drawback for the GC3 is going to be the opposite here. It's going to be the big upfront cost. It's going to be nearly 3 times the cost of the Bushnell Launch Pro, but you don't have the subscriptions to go along with it. So that's the choice you've got to make. The next launch monitor on our list is going to be Mio Plus. This is one of my favorites for sure. And the reason is no subscription costs. That's right, once you buy the hardware one time, there are a couple of additional software packages you can upgrade to. But either way, you won't have any monthly or annual fee with the Mio Plus. I think that definitely is a selling point of this one. Let's talk about price first. $22.99 is the retail price of the Mio Plus, but this is often, very often, on a discount. In fact, as I'm making this video in real time, you can pick one up for $19.99 at playbetter.com, our partners. So I think it's a fantastic price for what you're getting, which includes 20 parameters that you see here on screen, including vertical launch angle and horizontal launch angle, really everything you could possibly want for in terms of ball and club data. Now, as I mentioned, there's actually 2 optional upgrades that you can purchase, but the great thing is you don't need to buy them up front. You can add these later on. For $499, you can add impact detection, so you can know exactly where on the club face you're striking the ball. I find that to be extremely powerful if you want to improve your ball striking skills. You've also got a $1,000 optional upgrade for the Pro package, and this gives you incredible D-plane data. These are 3-dimensional views of your golf swing, as well as the trajectory of the ball coming off the club face. Super helpful. And like I said, you can always add those later. You don't have to do that up front. Just $19.99 will get you in the door doing most of this. The other thing your $19.99 is going to get you is 15 courses with E6. And again, no ongoing subscription. You're going to get courses, really high-end premium courses like St. Andrews and Pebble Beach, as well as a couple of others that are great tracks. You're really going to enjoy that. Now, the Mio Plus is also going to be, in my opinion, the most portable of all the options in this price range. It's a nice lightweight design. It's compact. They even give you a travel case that will slip in and out of your bag very easily. This is my launch monitor of choice when I'm going to the range. really like the Mio Plus for an indoor and outdoor solution. Now, one thing to bear in mind about the Mio Plus is this is a Doppler unit. It's actually a little bit more than that, which I'm going to explain here in a second. But being a Doppler unit, it needs to sit behind you. So it's the only device on this list that will actually sit behind the ball. You need an additional 8 feet of space in your room. So you really need about a 16-foot room at the very minimum, and probably more like 18 or 20 feet to really feel comfortable with the Mio Plus. So it is one thing you're gonna have to think about. But it also now uses the onboard camera. They call it fusion tracking. So you're getting a camera and Doppler all in one, and it's made this an incredibly accurate unit in my opinion, especially when you use RCT balls. Those are the special balls with the coating in them. The Doppler radar can read the spin coming off the ball. The other good thing about it is it doesn't miss shots, and you don't have such a narrow little window in order to place the ball. With some of these other units, especially like the Bushnell Launch Pro and the GC3, you have to have the ball in a very small little window in order to read the data. The Mio Plus is pretty wide considering, and I find it's probably the best in terms of not missing shots. So a lot to love about the Mio Plus, especially not having a subscription, but there is a couple of drawbacks here. First off, like I said, you're gonna have to have a bigger space in order to use it. And the other drawback is going to be putting. Putting is just not going to be as accurate having that unit sitting 8 feet behind you. All of these other devices read the ball right next to the ball with a camera, and that's gonna offer much more accurate putting results. So I'm not saying that you can't putt with it at all, but it's definitely not going to be as accurate or as consistent, and sometimes you will get misreads putting with the Mio Plus. So the one big drawback there, now you can get around it by setting a very generous gimme area in the simulator software of your choice. Speaking of simulator software, by the way, you can also add GS Pro and other third parties with the Mio Plus. And there's no connector that you have to purchase separately. It just works. It's really cool. Now, the next launch monitor on our list is going to be the SkyTrak Plus. This is the new and improved model. There was the SkyTrak. Now this is the SkyTrak Plus, which adds a couple more pieces of data here for you. Now, the price of the SkyTrak Plus at MSRP is $29.95. There often are, especially around holidays, things like that, discounts on this to be had, but it's going to be a little bit more expensive than some of the others here on this list. The trade-off there is you will probably need a subscription in order to make it more than just a driving range, and those subscriptions I think are pretty reasonable. So first off, for $129.95 a year, you have the Essential package, which adds skill challenges and a feature that I really love called bag mapping. I think SkyTrak does bag mapping the best in order to really dial in your distances so that when you get on course in real life, you know what you hit each club, especially your wedges. It's super important. SkyTrak's data, I think, is the best for this. The other package is a little bit more expensive, $249.95 a year. That's going to give you a course pack from E6. So you got it with the Mio Plus. For this, you're gonna have to pay for it. And you also get access to WGT, so you can actually do simulation on an iPad or a mobile device. Basically $250 a year. I think that is pretty good value, but it is a subscription, whereas the Mio Plus doesn't have that. Now, here on screen are all the data that the SkyTrak Plus measures, including some new club data like smash factor, club path, face angle, face to path, and face to target. Very comprehensive ball and club data here with the SkyTrak Plus. So let's talk drawbacks. The first one for me is going to be shot delay. With some of these others that we have talked about, especially the Mio Plus, that one's almost instantaneous. The SkyTrak Plus is not. Now, it's supposed to be improved over the original SkyTrak. If it is improved, it's not by much. There's about a second delay from when you take the swing to when you see the shot trace and the ball flying on your screen. That doesn't necessarily bother me as much. I'm kind of used to that, but I can see how it does take away a little bit of the fully immersive experience of having a simulator. So I totally get that, and it's something you've got to consider. The other things in terms of drawbacks with the SkyTrak Plus for me is the fact that while it technically is an indoor-outdoor unit, at least that's how they market it, I really do think this is primarily an indoor unit. I don't think the build quality is quite as high as things like the GC3, the BLP, and some of the others here on the list. And I'd feel a little uneasy if there was any potential for humidity or precipitation or something like that. It doesn't come with a carrying case or anything like that either, so I really don't think this is such a good mobile option. Again, I think the Bushnell Launch Pro, the Mio Plus are gonna be better options for mixed use. But if you want an optical device with lower subscription costs, really high accuracy, and just a great user interface, I think the SkyTrak Plus has to be something to consider. Now, the last set of launch monitors on my list come from Unicor, and we're gonna talk iMini and iMini Lite here. There are some slight differences, but they're important. Let's first talk pricing. The iMini comes in at $4,500. The iMini Lite is going to be $2,749 at MSRP. Now, what's the difference between these two? Well, the main thing is going to be that the iMini is going to be a more mobile-friendly unit. The iMini Lite really you could only use indoors because it has to be hooked up to AC power. It also needs a dedicated computer to run its software. The iMini itself has a battery on board, so you can take it. It's more mobile. It's also going to have a very nice screen on it. It's like the e-ink, very similar to an Amazon Kindle. It works great in bright lights, especially outdoors. Good contrast to that screen, so you can actually see the data right there looking down. You don't have to necessarily have it hooked up to a computer. So that's gonna be the main differences. For me, I actually use other launch monitors to go outdoors with, like I mentioned, so I would opt for the iMini Lite. And apart from those differences, everything else is the same. Here on screen, you can see the 19 data points that Unicor measures. And my favorite feature of both of these launch monitors, the iMini and the iMini Lite, is going to be the impact camera, where you can literally see the strike point of the club hitting the ball. Going to be so useful to improve your ball striking, really a standout feature that you don't get with any of these other devices. Some other things about the Unicor, I think it's extremely accurate. It goes toe-to-toe with, again, much higher price units. It's also super fast, nearly instantaneous. So when you take a shot, boom, that ball is on screen flying through the air, and that's really nice, again, to create that immersive experience that so many of us want. Now, if we get into software, there are two options. Again, I find them to be pretty reasonable for annual subscriptions. You have a $199 a year Pro package, which is going to give you simulations. So if you want to really use this launch monitor as a simulator, you have to have this. And that's going to do two things for you. First, it's going to give you a 5-course pack. We'll talk about that pack here in just a second, but you get access to 5 courses within the Unicor system. It'll also unlock the third-party connector, so now you can link into things like GS Pro, E6, and some of the other third-party software out there. Now, for $399 a year, you can step up to their next package, and that's going to give you 20 courses. I do not recommend this option, however, and I'll talk about it here when we talk about the drawbacks of this system. I think you can get away with the $199 package and be completely fine. So if you go iMini Lite, you got the $2,749 plus $199 a year. So let's get into that drawback. And the big drawback for me here is that the courses that it offers with either of these packages are going to be Korean courses. So these are not known courses to most of us, especially Westerners, folks living in the United States, UK, places like that, that aren't familiar with courses in Korea or in Asia. They are beautiful courses. They're really nicely rendered. It's a fun experience. It works really well, but the Bay Hill in the software is not the Bay Hill you're thinking of in Orlando, Florida. So that's gonna be a big drawback, and really not a huge one for me because I'm probably gonna use GS Pro anyways. Again, I think that's the most superior software on the market right now. For $199 a year, I can do that. Of course, you need the GS Pro subscription again, which is another $250. So you gotta consider really spending $450 a year to do it, but you don't have to do it. You really have the 5 or the 20 courses depending on the package you choose. Again, I'd probably go for just the lower option there. So there you have it. That's the differences, the good, the bad, the ugly with these launch monitors in the mid-tier price range. As I mentioned up front, right now is probably the best time you're going to have to buy them with all the sales that are happening. So again, I'm going to leave those links down below. I'm also going to leave a couple videos here so that you can further dive deeper into the pros and cons of each of these golf launch monitors on the market. And I'm going to leave that quiz I talked about down below so you can get customized recommendations from me and the Play Better team. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you back here next time on another edition of Let's Play Through.